We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on. Let me do it. I'm going to do it no headphones, so it's perfect. Sup, nerds? It's basketball. Welcome to Horse, a basketball podcast about everything except for the wins and losses. My name is Mike Schubert, and I'm joined by my trusted co-host, the men's team defeating France on their home court in the gold medal game, to the women's team defeating France on their home court in the gold medal game. It's Adam Mamawala. Adam, how's it going?
It's going well. We love to see it, probably a lot more than the French did.
Oh, just so good. As we said on the podcast, we hoped that this would happen. For it to happen twice is super cool, and for us to win both of them and just crush some French hearts, just making them Sacré Bleu all over the place. Oh, so much joy, so much joy. It
is funny how much objectively better and catchier chanting USA is than trying to squeeze in allez les bleus, allez les bleus. Like, it just doesn't fit, syllabolically.
From my experience, they usually say to a different chant or a different rhythm. Were they saying it like that in the game? I'm surprised.
They were chanting it like in the cadence of USA, but in like a sped up way.
Weird. Yeah. When I would go to French soccer games, they would draw it out more. It would be more of like a drawn out cadence. But regardless, we smoked them. And by that, I mean we had two very close games, but the men's team, it was kind of that was a big, Steph Curry just ran a dagger through the heart of France. And then on the women's game, I think I'm finally allowed to stop clenching, but even though it's been days and days and days at this point, but pretty solid. And then also the men's team winning on the day that the women's soccer team won, that was cool. It was a good run for the Olympics. It's so fun to actually just be an unabashed American and forget about how crap our country is for 2 weeks. And then we get to go back to terribleness. But let's talk about the basketball stuff, and let's get ready to talk about the basketball stuff in the Teal Memorial locker room, which if they're playing music, it's always to the right cadence. It's not weirdly rushed, a la Bleu kind of stuff to the chant of USA, USA. But you know who else is always singing songs to the right cadence?
Probably our patrons, and most notably our producer-level patrons.
Yes, shout out to all our patrons. Big shout out to all of our producer-level patrons: Polly Bird, Salvatore Testa, Siobhan Ellsbury, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed, Steph Curry had his Olympic moment, and Adam called it.
I really did. Bang.
Hi Trish, Chase Underulo, Haley Zink, Naked Rachel, Sidney Crosby is a vampire, Chelsea's cousin, Ginger Spurs boy, Balls to the Walls, and Mats Furli. Got a shout out. Polly Bird, shout out for the Australia women team. They got their bronze. And then for Denver Steam Nuggets, shout out to Jokic. Serbian team got their bronze. So producer level patrons, anyone not fallen and rooting for the American folk, still had some shining moments in there. Just
still medaled.
Potentially not shining as good as gold. Mm-hmm. But you know who is as good as gold?
Probably the kind of fancy cocktail that you would sip on if you had won a gold, a silver, a bronze, or even if you just participated in watching the Olympics.
Correct. Our episode is sponsored by Shaker and Spoon. If you want to make some fancy cocktails and not pay $1 jillion, which is what cocktails cost now, you can go to shakerandspoon.com/horse. You can get $20 off your first box. And what comes in a box? It's all the stuff to make 4 servings of 3 different drinks that all use the same liquor. You just got to provide the alcohol, and they have everything else for you. And you get the recipes, and you get the knowledge of making these drinks forever and continuing to impress your friends, your family, or yourself. So head on over to shakerandspoon.com/horse and get $20 off your first box right now. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for us to not actively lose money making this podcast. So we will now take a little bit of a break for that. But once those ads are complete, we'll continue with this episode of Horse.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
All right, Adam, we're back. What's up? What you got going on?
All right, a lot of the same stuff that I talked about last week. I will be in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, the weekend of September 25th through the 28th. Then after that, I will be at the Arlington Draft House. So any DC area people or Northern Virginia, I'll be headlining the Arlington Draft House on Thursday, November 7th. I've got some shows in a place called Weathersfield, Connecticut at the Brouhaha Comedy Club, something like that, on December 13th and 14th. And then we're already into next year, shockingly, but I will be headlining Zanies in Chicago on Sunday, January 12th. And I am actively working on locking in a Philly date. It'll probably be at the Philly City Winery where you and I were last year. That is probably going to be sometime in November, so keep an eye out for that. And possibly Toronto. There's a possibility of Toronto. Not sure yet, but that's what I got going on for now. What about you?
So I've got some of the same stuff with some slight updates. So by the time you will hear this, the Nashville and Atlanta stuff will be in the past, but I've got shows for TNO in New York, Vienna, Virginia, which is close to DC, Toronto, Boston, New Orleans, Dallas, and Philly. The Boston thing is of note because the late show has sold out, so we added an early show, a Sunday matinee show. So you can get tickets to that. And if you already have tickets to the late show, that is okay because the early show will do a different set of chapters in whatever book we're on, The Son of Neptune at that point, I believe, or maybe The End of the Lost Hero. No, that would be Son of Neptune at that point. So yeah, if you already got tickets to the late one and you're like, I would go to 2 shows.
You like how I nodded as if I knew anything about what you're talking about?
But look, I did a similar thing in Denver and it was kind of fun. People would like go to the early show, grab a bite to eat, then come back for the late show. If you just want to spend your Sunday with me, come on through. It'll be fun. So you can get tickets to all that at my website, Shubes, schub.es/tour. Alrighty, so I think now we can get into NBQ&A if we have an NBQ&A.
We do indeed. Let's get to it. So this NBQ&A comes to us from California Pete. I'm going to assume in California, but I've been wrong before. Could just be a nickname. But California Pete, the subject is locker rooms. Now, I will say California Pete, there's a good chance that I actually expand this into a 3-on-3 the next time I do one. But the question is essentially about like what are the best and worst professional basketball locker rooms, but also what we're going to answer today is like what makes a locker room good and what doesn't. We talk a lot about the Teal Memorial locker room, who California Pete rightfully says, quote, "It sounds like a dreamscape." It absolutely is California Pete. Great way to describe it. But in terms of actual locker rooms that you and I have experienced, what do you think are the hallmarks of a good and bad locker room?
I think the hallmarks of a good locker room, first and foremost, is cleanliness. That's going to be the number one,
that is
most
paramount.
important thing. Yeah, like no matter what you want to talk about with anything else, cleanliness is huge. I would then say layout plays a big factor. So what I'm talking about here, mainly my experience with locker rooms would be like when I played high school basketball, and then also when I play basketball, like when I would go to gyms like LA Fitness and stuff like 24-hour Fitness, stuff like that. I think a key for a good locker room is you want to have like lots of tucked away corners is nice, you know, where it's kind of like they've got lockers that kind of provide dividers and then benches in between. That just allows like for good privacy of where like you can kind of go in and usually there's not going to be like more than one dude and you can kind of just have like a space to yourself. There's enough room on the bench where you can put down like your clothes, your towel, all that kind of stuff. Never fun to have like a big open floor locker room situation because then you're going to have all those old dudes sitting around and walking around and that's like never fun to experience. So I think layout is huge. And then 3, I would just say like shower, temperature, water pressure can be huge. I like my high school had...
I hate a soft pressure shower.
Nah. And as long as you have like one of the things, it's okay. Like I can do not as warm, but it's like hitting me hard enough. I can do warm and not as powerful. My high school was like very powerful, not super warm. So it was like fine. But like if you've got like a cold dribbler, it's just, especially when you're really sweaty and tired, if it's after a game or a practice or
and cold dribbler in this context, not like, a compliment. Man, like I would call
tough.
Kyrie Irving a cold dribbler, but that's like a good thing.
Yeah. So those would be my things. I would say cleanliness, layout, and then shower pressure and temperature.
Have you ever been in like a group shower
key?
situation? Is that a thing still?
Yeah, my high school was that, where it was kind of like one big thing with like 4 nozzles. But the reason that wasn't too much of an issue for me is that's because we used the football locker rooms and they were big, and the basketball team was small enough where like we basically didn't have to share them. So it was never a situation where I was like quite uncomfortable. But I don't know if you've been in a more pressing thing.
Yeah. Do you think professional locker rooms are like that?
No. Oh, professional ones, no. I'm saying purely like high school. I would imagine that the ones that the pros are actually using have like nice showers that are like individual and like at the least would have the things that some locker rooms have where you can like close a curtain and you have your own separate kind of area. But I'm assuming these people have like doors, multiple shower heads, all that kind of stuff in these multi-million-dollar facilities.
You'd think so, but I feel like if you go back and watch any sports movies, they always depict like a football team or a baseball team just in this like gigantic room with a bunch of showers and everyone's just all naked together. And it seems very strange. And I would say, I don't know if that even exists or that's just something that was like depicted in films from the 80s, but that would certainly be, I think shower quality and privacy is pretty important.
Privacy, yeah.
If we're really gonna like be nitpicky, you know, I don't want to blow up your spot here, but you had an Equinox membership for a little bit. That's a nice locker room. They've got like the fancy lotion and they've got all the nice products and probably Dysons if I had to guess.
They got blow dryers there, which is nice. Yeah. I will say, to make myself sound a little less like a fancy boy, it was I got it at like late 2021. Pro tip to anyone: sign up for a gym membership in October. You can get a really
not in
good deal.
January.
So I got like a pretty good price. No, definitely October is I think the slowest time because I got a pretty good deal. I was able to lock into like a technically like COVID work from home rate kind of thing. And I mainly did it because in New York, like the gyms that I was going to were usually quite packed together. Like Crunch Fitness is like ones that's usually in like basements of buildings, and it was like very close quarters, and I'm COVID cautious and still am. And I was like, look, it's either don't go to the gym or shell out a little bit of cash and actually go to the gym. And I went to that nice Equinox, which had huge basketball courts, and it was a really fun time.
Sure.
And I do miss it. It was good. It was still a little pricey even with the good deal I got.
Yeah.
But it was a nice run. It was a nice run.
But the point is, in a place like that, you're getting like Kiehl's lotion and like all sorts of fancy stuff that really isn't even necessary.
Yeah.
But I think I would agree with you. Yeah.
But one thing that I think is super underrated that was in the women's locker room at Equinox, because Kelly would come with me because I would get, passes and stuff sometimes. And she said they just had a big thing of hair ties. Just like the little black hair. And according to Kelly, that was just like astronomically huge, like a huge value add for a women's locker room.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so obviously you and I can't really speak to what would be important in a women's locker room. But yeah, I would think some of those things or just anything that makes you feel more comfortable. But yeah, generally I would agree with you. Cleanliness, space, smell, and anyone who's grown up has been in a middle school or high school boys locker room, and it is just horrendous. There's only so much Axe body spray can do.
God, I would get legit headaches in middle school from all of the aerosol in the room. I think an underrated smaller thing, specifically with showers, because usually showers will have like some sort of like, I want to say like the staging area where there's like you can put your clothes, like a little bench, the hooks. Sometimes locker rooms are really annoying where like that will all be towards the entrance of the showers, and there's just like one area, and then there's like a row of showers. So sometimes you have to walk like really far to get between where you're actually showering and where all your stuff is, as opposed to like there being multiple or each shower having like a little kind of like cubby situation. That can just be really annoying where it's like, where do I hang my towel? Like the hooks are over here. Do I put it there? What if it gets wet? Like, yeah, there's stuff like that.
Even in a clean locker room, though, I'm still wearing flip-flops to the shower.
Oh, you need to. You absolutely need to. Or you just got to be really quick and give your feet a good scrub down and tell yourself that it's going to be okay, which is what I would do sometimes if I can't like carry around wet flip-flops around.
Yesterday on the subway, there was a guy who was in sandals and then just had his bare feet just up on the seat next to him. I was like, I don't know.
I don't understand people who wear flip-flops in New York City. What are we doing? Like
that's
just
bad.
Like that's what's going on. I also
they just get dirty.
I just like you're so close to like the dirtiest thing.
Yeah.
This was something I didn't think of, and I'm like not the biggest pet person, but someone made this point to me recently. If you have a dog in New York and they just like walk around your apartment, are you kidding me? Like their feet were on New York City sidewalks, and now they're just like all over your stuff. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Like, gosh. I would have to have my dog wear those like funky shoes and
Right.
stuff if I had a dog, which I will never have.
Fair enough. But
Yeah. Anyway, this is a basketball podcast.
yes, I hope that answered your question. And I do plan to try to do that as a future 3-on-3 to do some research about like what are the best and worst NBA and WNBA locker rooms. Like I would assume off the top of my head, like I'm sure the Vegas Aces have an incredibly nice locker room because generally
Gotta
it's like
be.
the newer the
Gotta be.
facility, the nicer the locker rooms are going to be. But that would be an interesting thing to look into if that information is available, and we'll see if it is.
We'll see. But yes, that was MBQ&A. Now we can get into full court press, get out like the news.
I do.
Big news. Gold medal, baby.
Yeah.
2 of them. Ka-ching, ka-ching.
And I have to say, obviously, it was not particularly courageous for me to have on the last episode been like, I think Steph Curry is going to end up having a good game. But it was noticeable how little he had been himself leading up to that. And I think it was the same day.
I mean, Anthony Edwards
Yeah.
made the joke after they got the gold where he said, my boy Steph just showed up 3 days ago.
I mean, it's kind of true. If you look at what he did those first few games, it was taking him a while to get into his rhythm. But I don't know if you got to watch it. I watched the entire semifinal game against Serbia, and I truly think I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that it's one of the best basketball games I've ever watched, if not the best. Like goes without saying that there are a lot of Bulls games that I think about when I consider the best games I've ever seen. But the stakes, the fact that you realize that for a lot of these iconic players of the past 10, 15, 20 years, like they're probably not going to be back the next Olympics. I'm sure LeBron could if he wanted to, but unless Bronny turns out to be amazing and he gets to play on the Olympic team, I don't think Bron will be back. Curry has essentially said he knows he's not going to get to do more than one Olympics. Durant probably won't be back. So to have them together and to have this moment where they really seem to be on the verge of getting knocked out, and credit to Serbia, they played really an almost perfect game. They were hitting all kinds of shots from outside. Bogdanovic was going bananas, riling up Carmelo Anthony on the sidelines, which maybe wasn't a good idea. But I mean, Serbia was up by, 13, 15 points, 17 at one point, going into the fourth, I think 13.
They were up 17 at one point.
And Steph just carried them. Durant hit some big shots, but that comeback was really, really, really impressive. You had to feel for Serbia, knowing that they were that close to getting to the gold medal game, and quite possibly, I think they probably would have won it if they had gotten there. But yeah, that game was amazing.
Yeah, you don't have to feel for Serbia, though, if you are my father, Joel P. Schubert, who did not enjoy the trash talking that Bogdanovic was doing. And he said, quote, "Go to hell, Braggadocious." So
that sounds like a Slavic Braggadocious.
Yeah, he butchered the name, but did tell him to please experience eternal damnation for talking trash. He was very happy to see Bogdanovic like putting his jersey over his head and stuff in sadness. But look,
does Joel know that his son is a trash talker?
Do the Melo celebration. He surely must. I don't think he might not know no, he does, because I tell him all the trash talk that I do when I play softball, which is really ramped up recently in the past couple of games because we've had like weirdly contentious games of late in our Monday afternoon league, which sadly we were bounced from the playoffs. But like, yeah, had some trash talking moments that I've expressed and shared with him, and he does laugh and approve of them. So he's not scolding of me for being the trash talker that I am. But yeah, that game was good. I mean, it's one of those things where like you think the USA is going to win, and you think they're never really out of it. But like you're halfway through the third quarter, and they're still down by like 15, and you're starting to be like, I was like, no, like
right.
I still think
it's gotta happen right now. Like this is
right. That's what I was feeling. I never really like doubted. It's just like. It was more of just like, when is the run starting? We gotta do it soon, because it's one of those things, and you see this in the France game. Like Steph Curry can make 4 3-pointers right in a row, and it can go from close game to not a close game quite quickly. So, and that's what happened. It was just like we made some threes. Kevin Durant had some shots. We had that 6-point possession that really changed the entire thing. LeBron turned it on. Like it can go so quickly, especially with all 3-pointers. But man, that game was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really good. Serbia played really well. I mean, the whole thing leading up to it before was that anytime Jokic sat, the team just like lost the lead, but their bench dudes stood up and took to it. Abramovich played really well, which is weird because there was a dude in my high school whose last name was Abramovich, and he was like not an athlete at all. So it was very strange to have someone with that same last name be very athletically gifted and actually crush our hearts. But it was a really solid one. I do think probably the best game I have watched on TV, and I was nervous. I was scared. I was still hopeful, and I'm glad that we did it. I mean, that Kevin Durant, just the ISO top of the key long two, just powerful.
It was very much like the shot that he hit in the playoffs, that one where his foot's like right on the line when he was on the Nets. That could have changed the course of basketball history for all we know against the Bucks. So
sure. Or like that one that he hit against the Cavs where it was just like you had the like once he had the ball, it's like this is going in. You just know. Like I had so much confidence. I was like, he's gonna take quote unquote a bad shot and it's going in. Like you just knew, and it did, and it was awesome.
Well, and speaking of people taking bad shots that go in, towards the end of the gold medal game against France. It at one point in the fourth quarter with like, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes left, France gets to within 3. So it's getting pretty dicey. And then Steph goes on this run where, was it 3 or 4 that he hit? 4 3-pointers.
4 threes.
The last
Four
of
threes.
which was
4 for 4.
Truly the epitome of like anyone else doing this would be the worst shot in basketball history. And yet he fires up this high arc shot over 2 defenders. I mean, the shot clock was running down, but not so much that he needed to shoot that in that moment.
No, he did not need to do it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like the last chance to shoot it if he was going to shoot it.
And it just falls right through the net. He also had a moment, I think earlier in that game, where he did the like shoot it and then turn around and celebrate before it even goes through the net, which is just a wild move in the Olympics. You have to make that if you do it. And of course he did.
So good. I mean, yes, literally the world is watching. But no, I mean, Steph was huge in the Serbia game. He's the only reason that we were close. Like he had like 23 points in the first half or something. Like he was our team. Without him, we just get blown out and we lose that game and we are going home with bronze. But yeah, the 4 threes he made at the end of the France game was nuts. I know that last one was like the more ridiculous one, but I think the most clutch one is the third one. Like that was the true dagger. That's the one that like actually like pretty much put it out of reach. He did the little pump fake. The dude flies by. He steps over and makes it. Like it was such a clutch display, and it did lead to the most ridiculous thing, which like, at that point you've made 3 in a row. You're on fire by NBA Jam rules. You are allowed to take a heat check shot. And that's one of those shots that if it was in a game where he's on the Warriors, that's a bad shot, like double team from that far away. But specifically, he's on the Olympic roster where LeBron James and Kevin Durant are wide open. No one is near them at all. And he's still taking that shot. And you know that the team respects him because no one shows any negative emotion when he does it. There's no like flailing of the arms from LeBron or shrugging of the shoulders and looking downtrodden from KD.
They're just like, go to sleep.
Right, okay, you got that.
Go to sleep.
And he hits him with the night-night. What I appreciate is after he made that third one, I was like, Steph should hit him with the night-night, but he didn't hit him with the night-night. Yeah, I guess there's one more to do. And like, there was like a little over a minute, but at that point, we're
double
up
digits
by,
at that point, I think, or close.
8 points or something. Like, it was enough where it's like, there's no way. We could just run out the clock and we're fine. But he didn't do the night-night, so I was kind of lamenting that he didn't. And then, honestly, when that play happens, I was watching on the couch with my family, and Barb and Joel were in town. We were at the Jersey Shore on a little vacation. And once Steph like got double teamed over in the corner, I started to get up to get something to help with baby stuff. Cause I was like, surely he's not going to shoot this. And then as I'm like getting up, then I like turn and look and he's like mid shot. And I was like, what? So I almost missed it, but it was truly, truly ridiculous. Unbelievably clutch, a very cool moment. And it's just a cool legacy thing for Steph because I think, there's some people who might want to not necessarily put him in some of those upper echelon conversations, but with the 2022 NBA Finals and his performance there, and then with this Olympic performance in the Serbia game and the end of the France game, it's just like such a cool way. Like he could probably play until he's 45 years old if he wants to. We'll see how long his career goes. But like now you've got some true like cementing of the legacy stuff. Like this Olympic performance is going to be huge.
Yeah, the guy was already easily in the Hall of Fame well before this, but he had alluded to the fact himself that like this was really the only thing left for him to do. Like he's won a bunch of championships, he's won MVPs, he's got the all-time 3-point record. Like he's accomplished just about everything that a person could accomplish in the NBA. So
he's got the Finals MVP.
I will say, to put a bow on the men's discussion, one of my favorite things. Did you see the Tyrese Halliburton tweet?
Oh, it was great. I was frustrated because I don't want to like him, but it's such a likable tweet.
No, it was great. So Tyrese Halliburton from the Pacers, who barely played at all in the Olympics, played like a couple minutes at the end of a game early on, shared a photo of him. It's a very funny photo, too, of him like holding up his gold medal. And the caption says, "When you ain't do none on the group project and still get an A." Perfect.
It's really good.
But let's talk about the women. I feel
solid.
like you're still coming down from the stress of the women's game.
I mean, that last game was so stressful. All the other games were not at all. We were winning every other game by like 30 points and such. So going into the finals, I remember discussing it with my family because we were trying to figure out like which Olympic things are we going to watch live? What are we going to watch a replay of? Are we going to go to the beach? What are we going to do? And when it came to the women's final game, I was like, look, because we watched some of the other ones live and it was just like, we're winning all these games by 30 points. Like it's going to be fine. So let's watch it on a replay. And then I decided to watch the replay and it just was close the whole time because France was no. So I'm just watching this. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? And it was just like, there's just weird coaching decisions. We were turning the ball over. France was playing good defense. We were missing a lot of shots and they just wouldn't go away and we never really broke away. But then thank God for Sabrina Ionescu finally coming in. She didn't play in the first half. Weird. Played in the second half, played well. And then truly thank you for Kalia Copper. Just absolute clutch performance in the fourth quarter. I think she scored like 12 points or had 12 points by the end of the game after the fourth.
She's so
just
smooth.
Went nuts. It was very reminiscent. So smooth, very reminiscent of her finals MVP performance with the Chicago Sky, where it was just like, the pressure is on, let's go. And I think similar to Steph, I'd felt like Kalia didn't have necessarily the strongest tournament, not because of her. I think it was more just like limited playing time situation, but came through in the clutch. A'ja Wilson turned it up late, which was really good. But speaking of those two women, they did ask A'ja Wilson after the game. A'ja's getting interviewed, and the reporter asks, Kalia Copper had a great fourth quarter, helped you secure that win. If you could describe her performance in one word, what would you say? And then A'ja Wilson just goes, "That bitch."
Oh,
which is 2 words, but it's great. And it was absolutely perfect. We've got to put the soundbite in it because her delivery of it, A+, no notes.
Last one word for Kalia Copper today. That bitch.
Is Kalia Copper 100% that bitch?
I mean, I guess. Is that what's that, Lizzo reference?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm out on Lizzo ever since she had weird stuff, right? She was like rude to her dancers and stuff. I'm out on Lizzo.
Yeah, but I still think it's a reference that makes sense in this context.
But yeah, it was funny with the one word thing because also after the Serbia game, because Joel Embiid played really well, Anthony Davis after the Serbia game said, "I got 2 words for y'all: Joel Embiid, Steph Curry," which are 4 words. So
he meant I've got 2 names for y'all.
Yes, correct, but he had too many words in there. So maybe we put calculators in the locker room. But women's game, we got the win. It had the very dramatic ending where Gabby Williams, formerly of my beloved Seattle Storm, had her foot on the line, heavily on the line, like not toe on the line, like her heel past, like it was very clearly. Breanna Stewart pointed it out right away. So a dramatic, weird finish, but we got the win. It's very much a look, I can't argue with the results kind of thing. And I was listening to Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe's podcast about it afterwards, and Sue said like that there's always one game where things get dicey, and people like to think that we are just absolutely dominant, which we are. We've won 61 games in a row now, 8 Olympic gold medals in a row now, which is nuts, but there still are tight games. And Sue said people will forget that a lot. They think every single thing is a blowout, but it just was unfortunate that the one tight game happened to be in the finals for the gold medal, but we survived.
Well, but theoretically, that's where it should be.
Yes.
That's meant to be the steepest competition.
Correct. But we made it through. We escaped. We got the gold. Happy with it. Happy for the women. Glad that we can keep that streak going. Glad that we could get Diana Taurasi her 6th and final gold medal. She said she's not coming back for 2028. So I am glad that we won. Because if we didn't, the whole Caitlin Clark should have been on the team discourse would have been insufferable. And I'm so glad that we don't have to deal with that. I'm so excited that I don't have to worry about that.
Although, again, if that discourse had existed, it really would have been more valid to have a why wasn't Arike Gunbowale on the team discourse.
Correct. That's the thing where like real people who follow the W would have brought up that concern. But I mean, look, honestly, Caitlin could have helped this team given the player Caitlin Clark is now. I felt like point guard struggles were there. You were feeling the, Sue Bird is not on this team effect. And they were weird with the point guard rotations and such. But we figured it all out. We got the win. We got the gold. Happy with it. Boom. Very excited.
Yay.
Yay. Now, the final thing for Full Court Press that I do want to bring in is it's basketball related and it's drama related, so it feels like we have to do it. Did you see all this like Noah Lyles, Anthony Edwards shoe situation thing with Adidas?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So Noah Lyles, who is a divisive person who was first in the news because he trash talked the NBA for calling themselves the world champions, even though they are not really the world champions, which like, I get what you're saying, but also it's like the number one league and there's no second league in comparison at all. So like, if you wanted to say you're the world champions, you are, but also like not that many people called the world champions. It's not like baseball reference where we call it the World Series. Like, yeah, people will say it, but like, I don't know. I feel like the phrase NBA champion is usually more commonly used.
Yeah, I the whole thing was silly. And to your point, it's like, yes, that is the best league. Like if the MLS champion is like, we're the world champs, it's like, you're clearly not. You're not the Premier League. But if you are in the best league in the world, I think it's more or less valid. And also, we keep winning the gold medals, so we continue to be the world champs also.
Right. Exactly. So he had this, and it seemed weird and strange and out of nowhere. But then with Olympic stuff, Noah Lyles was doing more press and doing more interviews, and he did an interview where he said this himself. He said that he had this back and forth with Adidas because he's all upset. And like, I can understand the frustration. He's upset that like track doesn't have like the same attention and notoriety as other leagues. And he wants that to be a thing, which like, yeah, people get super hyped for track in the Olympics and then don't care about it for 3 years and 11 and a half months.
Yeah, but that's 90% of Olympic sports.
Yeah, true. And I think it's just like the nature of it, unless you are a team sport with an established league. So I can understand those frustrations. But there was this situation where Adidas was working out a new contract with Noah Lyles, and they were trying to do something that Noah perceived as them trying to throw him a bone. And they invited him to Anthony Edwards's shoe. Like he got his signature shoe. He got a signature shoe released.
Like a launch party.
Exactly. Launch party for it. And Noah Lyles had this quote about it where he was all upset. And what he said was, quote, "You want to do what? You want to invite me to an event for a man who has not even been to an NBA Finals in a sport that you don't even care about, and you're giving him a shoe? No disrespect. The man is an amazing athlete. You just trashed him. He is having a heck of a year. I love that they saw the insight to give him a shoe because they saw that he was going to be big. All I'm asking is, how could you not see that for me? One, I don't know, like basketball shoes are just more common than track shoes. Even like, did Usain Bolt have a shoe? I'm sure he did. Right. I've never heard about it before. It's just like, and that was Usain Bolt. Now, I'm sure if he had like specific track cleats and people who run track get the Usain Bolt shoes, like, yeah, kind of like how I'm sure Mike Trout has a line of baseball cleats that actual baseball players like. But in terms of just like common person, it's just not the same as getting like a pair of Jordans or a pair of...
Basketball shoes are crossover shoes, pun intended, I guess.
Nice.
But like people wear basketball shoes as fashion. Nobody's walking around in cleats or track shoes or golf shoes or anything like that.
And it's weird because running shoes are very popular. So why not make like a traditional, just like running on the road shoe, but after a track athlete? So like, I also see his side of it. Like, yeah, Adidas, instead of making the Ultra Boost Light 512E, you know, all these weird, like just called the Noah Lyles one. And then there's just like running shoes. Because people wear running shoes all the time and just to walk around in and stuff. So he had all of this come out in an article. And then that made me kind of realize that's probably why he's mad at the NBA. Like, I bet the timeline of him doing that weird out of nowhere comment was when this was going down. So he got a lot of negative flack for this. And he was getting some other negative flack because he ran a race when he knew he had COVID for 2 fucking days. Nuts. No mask at all, just around a bunch of people attending to him, like breathing it hard as hell on them. Wild.
It's just weird that there aren't like rules against that, because he was pretty public about it.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, but only afterwards. And and they showed video that he like was masking and stuff, so like, he was doing some stuff, but like you saw the thing after he ran that race and he was breathing really heavily. There's like 8 people around medically trying to attend to him, and he's just like panting in their unmasked faces. And it's just like, damn, dude, you've known this for 2 days. Like, this is not a surprise diagnosis. So he had some negative flack coming his way. And then Noah Lyles had to post a tweet because he was getting negative flack for this Anthony Edwards quote thing. And it was just a very strange response that he had addressing the drama. And I'm going to pull up the tweet here because it's very confusing. He said, quote, on Twitter, "There is a rumor going around that I did not go to Anthony Edwards' shoe release because he didn't deserve it. That is not the case. He definitely deserves his shoe. He is an amazing player. The problem was finding time based on my prior engagements. Congratulations on becoming an Olympic champion." It's not a rumor. You were interviewed and you said I didn't go to it because I felt disrespected. I get what he's like trying to say here, because even in that quote where he sort of trashed him, he wasn't disrespecting Anthony Edwards. He was just more mad that the respect didn't come his way. But to call you being quoted in an interview a rumor is so funny to me. So lots of drama, and I think it finally gives us context for why he weirdly was trying to dunk on the NBA months ago. I think it's because he was invited to a party, and he said, "Why don't I have a party?"
Yeah, I think you're right.
But anyway, that's full court press. Get out like the news. Now we can get into your That Actually Happened.
Let's do it. So today's That Actually Happened is inspired by an email we received last month from Aaron Powers. So shout out to Aaron for the great idea. The subject line is the BAL, but Knicks related. And the email reads as follows, and I could not love this introduction anymore. "Hi, my name's Aaron Powers, South African baller." I'm going to start introducing myself to people that way. "Hi, my name's Adam Amawala, American baller." Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, look, and your last name is Powers. That's strong. That's strong.
It is very, very strong. But anyway, Aaron says, "Hi, my name's Aaron Powers, South African baller and short-time horse listener, but I'm smashing my way through all the episodes. I love it to bits. I started on the TNO side, huge fan. So when you mentioned horse, you had me at Basketball Podcast. I've been wanting to ask you about the BAL, Basketball Africa League, but I know that might be a bit out of your league. See what I did there? Yes, we do. However, I now have incentive. Samkelo Sele is going to play for the Knicks in the NBA Summer League. He plays for the Cape Town Tigers in the BAL. Might not be big news on your side of the world, but as a South African, very hyped for him. I don't know if there's a That Actually Happened topic there or an NBQ&A. Maybe what is the BAL? But it was such a cool crossover for me, and I thought I'd share. Well, guess what, Aaron? There is a That Actually Happened here, and it's about to happen right now.
Let's go.
Not only did this seem like a great suggestion, but given all the coverage of the South Sudan team during their great Olympic run, I thought it might be a really fun topic to explore. Since I certainly don't know anything about the BAL, I would imagine you don't either.
Yeah, I know a little bit. Just I want to say I know that like Dikembe Mutombo is an ambassador to it and helped start it. I also want to say that Hakeem Olajuwon is big. Honestly, the limited things I know about it is because I follow the NBA on Instagram, and they do a lot of those like collaborator posts with other things. So every now and then some BAL stuff will jump on my timeline. But as far as the specifics and such, I don't really know that much.
Yeah, but I mean, generally speaking, I don't know that much. You don't know that much.
Oh, no. I couldn't name the name of one team or player. Yeah.
And by the transitive property of horse, if you and I don't know something about basketball, it stands to reason that much of our audience likely won't as well. So the BAL is actually only 5 years old, and it was founded in 2019 as a co-branded venture by the NBA and FIBA. I would say 2 pretty good organizations to have backing you. This announcement came in February of 2019, but thanks to the pandemic, the first season didn't actually get played until 2021. So thus far, only 4 full seasons have been played. The season runs from March to May, so it's obviously a much shorter season than the NBA. And the structure is interesting because, as I understand it, it almost functions more like football does, as in like football with your feet, in that there are 6 teams who are in the league by default, and then 6 other teams who get into the league by playing in what is called the Road to BAL, a qualifying tournament. Now, the really cool thing about this was that during the first ever tournament in 2021, 31 teams competed, and of those 31, those got whittled down to only 6 teams who actually made the BAL.
Okay.
The league continues to expand, though, and an article from Forbes accurately observes, quote, when the NBA announced the Basketball Africa League, or BAL, 5 years ago, on the surface level, it seemed like a rather ambitious plan. But when you look at the history of basketball on the continent and the work the league has done to establish its roots there, it made perfect sense. The NBA has worked for decades throughout Africa with Basketball Without Borders and NBA Academy, and the natural next step was to bring a full-fledged sustainable league spanning across the continent. End quote. And that's what's really cool about this whole thing. Like, obviously, if you want to be cynical about it, you can look at this through the lens of capitalism and assume that the only real intention of the BAL is to create a pipeline from Africa to the NBA to make owners and the league more money, much in the same way that this exists from the Dominican Republic to the MLB, second baseball reference. But from everything I have read about the NBA and FIBA, they're really trying to make a positive impact. There's a different article from the U.S. Global Leadership Coalition, and they note that across Africa, the youth population is expected to double by 2050. And the NBA is helping these youths learn life skills that can help them in the future, thanks to basketball programs and infrastructure being set up in Africa. Now, to take an important step back, though, it is worth noting that if we're going to applaud the NBA and FIBA here, let it also be known that there is a long-standing history of African basketball players like Hakeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, Manute Bol, and Luol Deng doing incredible work in their native countries, not just from a basketball perspective, but in general. That being said, this is like a long-standing thing where the NBA actually started a Basketball Without Borders program in Africa way back in 2003, as well as a co-branded initiative with US Aid called Live, Learn, and Play back in 2014. But when the BAL was launched in 2019, a lot of people put their money where their mouths were, including Nike and Jordan Brand, who are the official outfitters of the league. And also, with all due respect to Nike and Jordan Brand, might I add that former President Barack Obama is a strategic planner and minority owner for the BAL. Pretty cool. I'll share a link to Obama when this was announced, talking about what it meant to him. But according to a USA Today article from that time, quote, Obama's role will help advance the league's social responsibility efforts across the continent, including programs dedicated to supporting gender equality and economic inclusion, end quote. Pretty cool and obviously important stuff.
Yeah.
The president of the BAL, referred to as the godfather of basketball in Africa, Gallo Fall, no relation to Taco that I'm aware of, had been working towards this moment for decades, serving as the vice president of the NBA's first office in Africa, which opened in 2009 in South Africa. In an interview with Forbes, Fall addresses the assumption that the BAL exists solely to serve as a pipeline to the NBA. According to Fall, quote, I suppose it's about more than just being an exporter of talent, right? I think Africa as a whole, even in other sectors, has been a place where they've been talking about the extractive industries, very little transformation that's been taking place. But with the vast amount of talent that remains, there's an opportunity to create a sports and entertainment product that the rest of the world is going to want to consume, pay to watch, travel to different African countries to visit, and use basketball as the convening power, end quote. This same article, published earlier this year, talks about the rapid expansion and success of the BAL, with its 12 teams now playing a record number of games, 48, and reaching fans in 214 countries and territories in 17 languages. The league is split into 3 conferences, Sahara, Nile, and most recently added Kalahari, with nearly 25,000 fans attending the Kalahari Conference games and opening and closing nights both selling out. The aforementioned Luol Deng has been an ambassador for the league since it began, and Gallo Fall gives Deng his well-deserved flowers in an interview, saying, quote, what Luol Deng is doing in South Sudan is proof that with the right leadership, expertise, and commitment, you could do wonders in a country that didn't exist 12 years ago. I think just with the ecosystem that is growing, there will be more opportunities for players and young talent to participate in our game, end quote. And it's true, one really cool feature of the league that I've never heard of in any other league is that one spot on each team is reserved for a prospect from what they call the Elevate program. So it's kind of like if every NBA team allowed for one top high school or college prospect to be on their roster. ostensibly to like learn
That's
from other
pretty
people,
sweet, yeah.
maybe get some minutes. It's kind of like the Christian Laettner being on the 1992 Dream Team method, where like Laettner had graduated college, had not played in the NBA yet, and he was there with all these like legends of the game. This interesting design has already paid dividends as 17-year-old Kaman Malawash had the opportunity to play for the Ugandan club, the City Oilers, this year through that program, before playing for the South Sudan Olympics team and before he heads to Duke University this fall. The 7'2" teenager averaged 17.5 points and 13.5 rebounds in his BAL games, and he's currently projected as the third best prospect in the 2025 draft if he ends up declaring after 1 year at Duke. So this is somebody who could like easily be a lottery pick based on projections. Obviously, who knows how it all plays out, but pretty cool. Yeah.
That is so cool. Yeah. I mean, even just for getting people into the NBA, that's one thing. But yeah, I think it's just, to give kids nearby just the opportunity for something like this, or just even the awareness of like, oh, hey, the younger kids, this will be years and years from now, but like younger kids can be like, oh yeah, I went to a BAL game when I was a kid and then I wanted to play basketball. Like, it's just cool to see the butterfly effects of this existing and this league growing.
Well, it's a lot like the current generation of WNBA players who are young enough to have grown up with the WNBA, which is such a huge deal when you can see something being modeled. Like to say, oh, that is a thing that I can do.
Right.
To even know that that's a possibility instead of what I'm sure must have been a pipe dream of like when Hakeem Olajuwon was coming up playing basketball, it would have been hard to even conceive of like, oh, I could go to America and I could play in the NBA when this was happening in, 1980.
And you hear so many stories of players in the NBA that come over from Africa. Usually it's them not playing basketball and playing something else and being really tall, and then some talent scout seeing them.
Sure.
I want to say for Hakeem, he was like a big volleyball player.
Something like that,
Which obviously, if you're that good at being tall and swatting stuff, yeah. But I think, Joel Embiid and stuff like that. Yeah, I think for people, you just hear these stories of, oh, Joel Embiid didn't start playing until he was 12. Hakeem didn't start playing until he was in high school, whatever. If the league grows to more prominence and stuff, then, we're at least in a situation where maybe you start playing earlier. Maybe it's more like other countries where you try out basketball at age 5 or whatever.
Right. And there's a real concerted effort to keep things local, which is very cool, because one of the other coolest features that I thought about the BAL is that its purpose is to serve the African community, not exist as a place for players from other parts of the world to come play, as is the case with a lot of European teams. So there's actually a rule that each club participating in the BAL regular season is restricted to only 4 foreign players, meaning that they must have 8 local players on their roster. And at least 2 of those 4 foreign players must be from a different African nation. So the idea is to like keep it Africa centric, which I think is a cool way to structure it. These rules, of course, are ever changing and ever evolving, but I thought it was a pretty interesting wrinkle.
Sure.
At the moment, each of the 12 teams are from a different African nation. So there's Libya, Central African Republic, Uganda, Egypt, Rwanda, Tunisia, Senegal, Nigeria, South Africa, Angola, Burundi, and Morocco. In the first 4 years, the BAL champions have come from Egypt, Tunisia, Egypt again, and most recently Angola, respectively. And while the point of the BAL is not solely to serve as a pipeline to the NBA, the fact that it's starting to happen is a clear sign of the success of the league. Ulrich Chomche, and I'm doing my best with pronunciations, obviously, has been labeled as the best Cameroonian player since Joel Embiid. Recently became the first BAL player to get drafted into the NBA when he was selected in the second round of this year's draft by the Grizzlies, who then traded him to the Raptors. On July 10th, he signed a 2-way contract with Toronto, so hopefully he'll get a shot in the NBA this season. I assume he'll start out in the G League, as is the case with 2-way contracts. And to circle all the way back around to the initial inspiration for Aaron's email, South African hooper Samkelo Sele, who played for the Cape Town Tigers the past 2 seasons and was named first team BAL, got the opportunity to play for the Knicks in the Summer League and was turning some heads. I don't know how much he kept up with Summer League, but I'll share a link to like his first Summer League performance, but he looked pretty good. It's unclear, obviously, if he'll make the Knicks roster. I would assume maybe not because of how deep they are.
I don't think so.
It's pretty cool. He's in a bit of a different position because he's actually 26 years old. So obviously different place in his career than Malawash or Chomche, but hopefully he gets his chance, if not with the Knicks, somewhere else. But in general, as someone who loves this sport, it's just very cool to see it continuing to expand the way that it has, especially in a place like Africa, knowing that the vast majority of influential NBA players throughout all of history have been largely African American. And as much as I'd love to see the USA winning gold every 4 years, it's becoming abundantly clear that that's no longer going to be a foregone conclusion. And honestly, I kind of love that for basketball. So the BAL appears to be here to stay, and that actually happened. And as far as I can tell, will continue to happen.
Yeah, and it would be cool to see maybe some sort of integration at All-Star Weekend, because they did a thing where they do that like in the Rising Stars game or something. They have like a team of G League guys, or G League guys are in the pool. So if they could do something where like a BAL team comes over or something like that, that could be really fun. Or at least just like a couple players from the BAL in the pool could be interesting. So yeah, that's awesome. I thank you for doing this, because now I will have more context when those things pop on my social media feeds, and I'll be more aware of what's going on in the league over there.
There you go.
So cool.
1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. 3 on 3.
So for my 3 on 3, I am going to take us back to topics that we were discussing earlier in this episode, because Steph Curry in the Olympics, in those last 2 games, especially at the end of the France game, he was doing things that I would describe as both clutch and absurd. So what I'm going to do for my 3 on 3 is Steph's top 3 most clutch plays and Steph's top 3 most absurd plays.
I love that. Also, you're reminding me that we need to share the audio of the French broadcast of Steph torching France, because it's just someone in
the demon Steph Curry has driven this
the devil
hearts.
Steph Curry does it to us again. Yeah, it's amazing.
The devil Steph Curry. Oh, it's really good, really good. So let's start with the absurd and then go to the clutch. So my number 3 most absurd thing, and some of the absurd things are a little more clutch, but this is just more of like ridiculous plays. This took place in a Western Conference semifinals game between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. The Warriors are up 3-2, and specifically, this was a play that took place at the end of the third quarter. Warriors are up by 5 at this point, and there's like 3 seconds left, and Jeff Green on the Grizzlies tries to put up a shot. He gets blocked, and then Steph catches it with 1.3 seconds left. And basically everyone stops trying at this point, because where Steph catches it is on the free throw line of the other team. So he is 75% of the floor down, and he just catches it and then does like a 1-2 step heave. And it's so weird, because everyone just stopped playing, that it very much feels like one of those, like, oh, you just throw it up and it's not going in. Like, oh, no one thought this was going in. And Steph just like 1-2 heaves it with more than enough time. Like, the ball's clearly out of his hands with like half a second left. And he just swishes it. Like, he doesn't just make the shot, just swishes the shot. It's super clean. And it's one of those things that like seems ridiculous, but we're talking about a playoff game. You know, this is game 6 in a series. So clearly it's a competitive series. They were up by 5. Now you're up by 8 going into the fourth quarter. It's a ridiculous sort of play that actually does have real implications and does affect the outcome of the game. They go on to win that game, and it's just like, this is why people always need to take those full court chucks. I hate that people will not do it because they want to save their shooting percentage. I really want...
Have I told you my idea?
That they should treat it like when you shoot a shot and you get fouled, and if you make it, it counts as a made shot, but when you miss it, it doesn't count as a missed shot.
Yeah, or like a sacrifice fly where it's like no at bat.
Exactly.
Right? So like my rule is, if you shoot from beyond half court with less than 5 seconds left in a quarter, if you make it, it counts as a field goal attempt and you get credit. And if you miss it, it doesn't. And then we get a bunch of fun attempts.
Yes.
Such an easy rule.
It's such an easy, obvious rule change. I don't understand why they haven't brought that in yet. But
do you have Adam Silver's number anymore?
I don't. I lost it. I got a new phone. He always changes it. Yeah. So that was number 3 most absurd. Number 2 most absurd is Steph Curry writing a letter to the local government in Atherton, California to stop public housing. Pretty absurd move from Steph Curry.
What? Huh? What?
So Steph Curry, this was, I want to say it was like last year.
I assumed this would be all basketball things. This is just Steph, a citizen.
Hey, absurd plays from Steph Curry.
So number 1 is him saying that he eats Subway, or I don't want to give it away.
The money's good. You got to take it. So Steph sends out this letter, or at least it is brought to light that he sends out this letter in January of 2023. And there's this like housing development situation going on in this pretty affluent neighborhood in the Bay Area, Atherton, California, which is so affluent that I don't think I've ever even been to it. And I lived in the Bay. So let me try to just like pull up on a map where this is. Okay, so it's kind of like southern... Okay. It's kind of like in between San Francisco and San Jose, like near Palo Alto. So near like tech stuff. It's close to where Stanford is. So definitely like a nice part of California. It is clear that that is where Steph and Aisha, his wife, live. And somehow someone got a hold of this email that they had sent to their local governor. And here's what it says. It's to the mayor, Mayor Widmer, City Manager Rodericks. So it's written to these two people. As Atherton residents, specifically Selby Lane, we have been following along with the housing element updates with special interest in the 23 Oakwood property. We were pleased when the December meeting concluded with leaving multifamily housing off of private properties and the council's recognition that 23 Oakwood does not contribute to the very low or low income numbers required by the state. We hesitate to add to the quote, not in our backyard, literally rhetoric, but we wanted to send a note before today's meeting. Safety and privacy for us and our kids continues to be our top priority. And one of the biggest reasons we chose Atherton as home. With the density being proposed for 23 Oakwood, there are major concerns in terms of both privacy and safety with 3-story townhomes looming directly behind us. Oh no. We kindly ask that the town adopts the new housing element without the inclusion of 23 Oakwood. Should that not be sufficient for the state, we ask that the town commits to investing in considerably taller fencing and landscaping to block sightlines onto our family's property. Thank you for your consideration. Thanks and God bless, Stephen and Aisha Curry.
The only thing that I'm going to say in their defense is that, like, he is incredibly famous. So if there's a scenario where like the 3rd story looks directly into their backyard, I would also want privacy. So I get that.
Yeah. You know what you do? You move. Like, you're one family. Well, why are you trying to ruin things for a bunch of potential families in the area? Just because you're like, well, I'm famous and I need a big fence so people don't look at, then move.
Yeah.
You're worth billions. Not yet, but eventually. Come on, man. Just tough look from Steph. Outside of this, seems to be like pretty chill, good dude. This, not a good look. So I would say this is my number 2 most absurd play from Steph Curry.
I didn't expect this turn, but fair enough.
No, number 1 most absurd is back to the basketball court. This is that shot that he made against the Clippers when he shot it and there was like 6 dudes around him, even though there's only allowed to be 5 on a basketball court.
The one where Kerr is like throwing his hands up and then just starts laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a regular season game between the Clippers and the Warriors, but this is like the peak Lob City, CP3, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Clippers, and the Warriors. And it's just, I was watching this game live and I was absolutely baffled. So it's this play, and obviously we'll put a link to it in the episode page at horsehoops.com, but he gets the ball with like 13 seconds left on the shot clock. This is like halfway through the 3rd quarter, and just like a standard kind of pick and roll thing, but he starts doing some dribbling moves. And just by nature of how the defense has shaken out, there are 4 Los Angeles Clippers around Steph Curry, and he's just dribbling all around, and he's near the foul line and then just dribbles to the 3-point line. And then by the time he's there, he's got 2 Clippers in front of him and 1 behind him. And he just like fires up this shot, like rushed, semi-turnaround, quick release.
It's like a blind shot.
Almost, yeah. There's 10 seconds left on the shot clock, so there's no reason for him to do this. They're up by 10 points. He just fires this up. And I remember this was kind of the first instance of me of like, oh, Steph, bad shot. Like before I truly embraced that, like anything is a good shot for him. And he just turns around, makes it again, of course, swishes it. And it's just this truly ridiculous play. Like he does a behind the back dribble at one point during the move. And I'm pretty sure the basketball is like between him, like it looks like it goes through Chris Paul's legs, who's defending him. It's just an absurd play. It doesn't go through his legs, but it's like in between Chris Paul's hand trying to get a steal. And it's just a truly ridiculous play. Should be a terrible shot. And then, yes, one of the best things about it is the cameras happen to be on Steve Kerr. Like an alternate camera was on the coach, Steve Kerr. And he just has these 2 hands up and really disgusted look on his face when he shoots. It just like looks really disappointed. And then Steph makes it. And just this great visual of him putting his hands on his head and turning around, and while the entire arena behind him just erupts in celebration because it was a home game and they've got all the noisemakers going and stuff. It's just such a great play. And Steve Kerr's reaction was even better. Just truly the most absurd Steph Curry play I've ever witnessed. And now we will move on to the most clutch plays. The number 3 most clutch play, and this was tough. There's a lot of ones, and there's a lot that were like really close for this 3rd place spot. But what I'm going to give it is for a shot that he took in Game 5 of the 2019 NBA Finals. So this is the finals where it was the Warriors versus the Raptors. This was the game where Kevin Durant went down with that injury. So the Warriors are down 3-1 in this game. They are facing elimination. I believe the game is taking place in Toronto. So they are on the road. They are yes, it's in Toronto. They are on the road. They are facing elimination, and they are fighting to win this game without arguably their best player, or at least, tied for first place with Steph. So they're down 3-1, and they had a really big lead. The Raptors had fought back. Kawhi's going nuts in this because this is the year when Kawhi's on the Raptors. Steph's not having a great game. He's shooting 0 of 7 from 3 in the second half, and he ends up with about 1 minute and 30 seconds left doing the classic thing where he runs around, gets open, and makes a clutch shot with 1 minute and 24 seconds left to tie the game at 103-103. And this, I was watching this game, this is one of those, like, there's certain shots where it's just, if he doesn't make this, it's going to be bad. Like, you can just feel, you're like, we absolutely need a bucket here. So that's already high stakes. But for it to be in the finals and in an elimination game that they did go on to win, it just really kind of set the tone for the rest of the game. Just such a super clutch shot and moment from Steph. For number 2 of all time, I'm going to give it to another finals play, but this is in Game 4 of the 2022 NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics. He was playing clutch this entire game. Like, I think this game is what sealed his Finals MVP, but just had a nuts performance in Game 4. But specifically, he makes a 3 over Derek White, arguably the best defender on the Celtics. He makes a 3 over Derek White with 1 minute and 45 seconds left. So this was 97-94 in favor of the Warriors. He makes this 3 in Derek White's face off a step back, and it makes it 100-94 with like 1.5 minutes left. And a 6-point deficit with 1.5 minutes that's just tough to overcome, especially when you've got Steph on the team, you have a bunch of people who can make free throws, you've got a challenging roster to go against. Six points with that much time left is pretty clutch. So this was just, I think, something that was really needed. They were down 2-1 in the finals at this point, so this ended up tying the series, and then they went on to win. So again, just kind of like, we need this game, we need this shot sort of thing, and it was pretty much the dagger that helped put Game 4 out of reach. Number 1, though, is, I think, the most obvious example. I think for at least me, and I think for many others, this is the play when you think of Steph Curry being clutch. It's that overtime shot to win the game against the Thunder in the black jerseys with the sleeves. This was a regular season game, but it was towards the end of the regular season. And at this point, it was very much like the Thunder and the Warriors, who's going to come out of the West. Like, these were the 2 teams.
I was watching this live, and I'll always be grateful for that.
Same. I remember it was like dedicated. It was like a Saturday night game. And I was very much like, I want to watch this game. It was just the perfect thing where the schedule aligns, where like 2 teams who are really going to be tough in the playoffs happen to face off in the regular season. So it was appointment viewing. And getting into overtime, it was a really dramatic situation. The Thunder were up 4 after a Kevin Durant 3. Klay Thompson makes a layup with 12 seconds left. Then he gets a really good steal after the Warriors trap KD, and he forces this pass. And Iguodala makes these 2 free throws. He shoots it basically as time is expiring, makes 2 free throws to send it into overtime. Another fun fact about this game, in this game, Steph Curry had broken the record for most 3-pointers made in one NBA season. So already you have a cool game. He's playing well. He's broken this record. There's already cool stuff happening. They're already starting to write the headlines. But now you got to write new headlines, because in overtime with 29.5 seconds left, the game is tied at 118-118. There's a defensive stop made against the Thunder. The Warriors get the ball, and Steph gets the pass with about 5 seconds left, dribbles up the court. And this is the iconic Mike Breen call, where this was the first double bang. And in his call, he says that the Warriors do have a timeout. They decide not to use it. And he pulls up basically halfway between half court and the 3-point line with 2.5 seconds left. So farther back than he needs to be, more time left on the clock than he needs to. But it's just one of those, well, I'm open from this distance, and that's what the time is. So like, let me just shoot it. And it's fun when you shoot them from this far away because you have the extra time to go, oh, like kind of like with his France one, because he had the high arcing, you had enough time to be like, Steph, what are you doing? And I remember him pulling up.
The only other person I can think of who's done stuff like that, where you're like, this is only a good idea because it's you, is like Damian Lillard shooting a 45-footer over Paul George to send the Blazers into the next round. But yeah, it does definitely add to the, that kind of climactic moment when you just see the ball in the air and everybody is like focusing on it like, oh my God, is this really going to go in? We should play the sound of the Breen call because it's absolutely phenomenal. Like that call is seared into my brain.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
that like bang, bang. Oh, what a shot from Curry. And then Curry's like crip walking on the other side of the court. Or doing the Bernie dance, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's like the most quotable one. He's very much celebrating it after. He was very much stoked about it after. But yeah, he shoots it up, makes it. There's like 0.6 seconds left. So not like a true 100% buzzer beater, but basically. And they end up winning the game. And that was just like a huge momentum thing going into that playoff push. But yeah, it was awesome. And it was, again, one of those like, oh, why is he shooting it? Oh, okay. Not like a full no, yes kind of shot, but it's one of those, there's enough little factors of like, he's a little too far. He shot it a little too early in terms of time left on the clock. And they had a timeout. Just one of those, like all three of those combined when he shot it, it's like, oh my gosh, what? And for me at that point, I was very much rooting for the Warriors. I don't know if this was the year that I was living in Oakland or if it was the year after, but this is when the Knicks were actively tanking. And I just, had supported the local team where I lived. So it was fun to root for the Warriors before they became like super mega juggernauts. Like this is the pre-KD Warriors. So it was more fun. Once it got KD, then it felt like you were rooting for the Decepticons, So for this, I was super invested and I really hoped that they were going to win it. And it was just cool. And I just very vividly remember watching this and being like very nervous that he shot this shot. But he made it and celebrated as he deserved to do. And I think that is without a doubt the most clutch Steph Curry play. And that's my 3-on-3 for absurd and clutch Steph moments in honor of his absurdly clutch Olympic performances.
Love it. Just another notch on the belt of clutch moments throughout a clutch career. One of the best.
One of the best. I hope he plays until he's 50.
Same.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Horse Horses, hosted by Adam Amawala and Mike Schubert. Our editor is Kensei Suramaki. The website is by Kelly Schubert. The artist by Allison Wickman. The music is by Bettina Campamanas. And the social media is by both of the Horse Boys.
Thank you to our producer-level patrons, Polly Bird, Salvatore Testa, Siobhan Ellsbury, Junko Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed. Steph Curry had his Olympic moment, and I called it.
Bang!
Hi, Trish, Chase Underulu, Haley Zink, Naked Rachel, Sidney Crosby as a vampire, Chelsea's cousin Ginger, Spurs boy, Balls to the Walls, and Mats Furli. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Horse Hoops and on Twitter at Horse_Hoops because
Horse Hoops was run by the person who gave that invite to Noah Lyles, and Noah Lyles had them eliminated.
Well, he felt very disrespected.
Yeah, what are you going to do? How could you not see that from me?
Oh my gosh. You can go to our website, horsehoops.com, for links to many of the fun stuff we talked about today. We'll have some BAL content for you. We'll also have some Steph content, so definitely check that out.
Yes, and if you want to support the Horse Boys, you can go to patreon.com/horsehoops. You can get access to bonus content, you can get stickers, you can get a bunch of whole cool stuff, and you can go to horsehoops.com/merch. You can get Sup Nerds shirts and digital goodies, lots of fun stuff there. But to close this out, put our hands in the middle and say something on the count of 3. What are we feeling? What are we feeling saying to close this one out?
I don't know. Has anything interesting happened of late?
I mean, we could commemorate the gold medals. We could be happy that the WNBA is back after their break. We could cheer on our newly found softball team that we are on, where it's all lawyers and then us, and we're soon approaching the playoffs. We've got directions where we can go.
That's true.
We could just say go for gold on 3. That kind of checks all 3 of those boxes where you're going for the WNBA trophy for whatever team, preferably my Seattle Storm. Celebration of the men's and women's team winning, and then also the very important, I think, isn't it even like officially called the Beer League? Isn't that like the name of the league this team is in?
No, it's called like Happy Hour.
Okay,
like that,
which is the same thing. So,
and also, you never know. Maybe someday in the future, a gold for a team from Africa.
Yeah,
it's entirely possible.
We'll say go for gold on 3, 2,
all right,
3.
Go for gold.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles Mackenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.